The New Shadow. The bus groaned to a halt, its brakes hissing like a tired animal. Malik Johnson adjusted the straps of his backpack, feeling the weight of it dig into his shoulders. It wasn't just the textbooks, it was everything else. The stares, the whispers, the way the air in this town felt thicker, like he had to push through it just to breathe. Crestwood High loomed in front of him, all red brick and white trim, the kind of place that looked like it belonged in a brochure, the kind of place that didn't belong to him. He stepped off the bus and the chatter around him dipped for half a second before picking back up. He kept his eyes forward, his face blank. He'd done this before. Military kid, new school, new rules, new people looking at him like he was a problem they hadn't figured out yet. The hallway swallowed him whole. Lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked against waxed floors. Laughter cut through the noise like shards of glass. Malik moved through it all like a shadow, hoodie up, headphones in, even though nothing was playing. Shoulders slightly hunched, not enough to look weak, just enough to seem smaller than he was. He knew how to disappear. First rule of being the new kid: don't be interesting. Interesting got you noticed, noticed got you remembered, and remembered, that got you targeted. He found his locker on the first try, 217. He spun the combination, popped it open, and started unloading his backpack like this was just another day, like he hadn't left his best friend, his gym, his whole life 3 states behind, like his mom wasn't working double shifts at the base just to keep them afloat after the transfer. A shoulder bumped into him from behind. Hard. Malik's grip tightened on his notebook, but he didn't turn, didn't react. Oops. The voice was all fake innocence. Malik knew the type. He'd met them in every school, every town. The guy who thought the world owed him something just because he'd been born in it. Malik closed his locker. The guy, tall, broad-shouldered, blonde hair buzzed short on the sides, leaned against the locker next to his, smirking. You knew, Malik nodded once. Shane Riggs. He stuck out a hand like they were about to be friends. Malik looked at it, then at him, then walked away. Behind him, Shane's laugh followed, sharp and mocking. Real talkative, huh? Malik didn't answer. He didn't need to. He'd already seen the look in Shane's eyes, the flicker of irritation, the challenge. Malik had been here before. Second rule, never give them a reaction. But Shane wasn't done. Lunch was worse. Malik took his tray to the emptiest corner he could find, far from the packed tables where kids shouted over each other, where Shane held court like some kind of king. Malik didn't mind eating alone. Less talking, less pretending, more time to think. He was halfway through something that might have been meatloaf when the shadow fell over his table. This seat taken? Malik looked up. A girl with dark curls and a nose ring stood there, tray in hand. She didn't wait for an answer before sliding into the chair across from him. I'm Jess. Malik nodded. She smirked. You always this quiet? When I can be. Jess laughed like he'd said something funny. Shane's an asshole, by the way. Malik didn't react. He's got this whole thing where he picks one person to mess with every year. Guess you're it. She took a bite of her sandwich. Don't take it personal. He's just scared. Malik almost smiled at that. Almost. Of what? Of anyone who doesn't care what he thinks. Malik studied her. Jess met his gaze, unflinching. For the first time since he'd stepped off that bus, he felt something loosen in his chest. Then the milk carton hit the floor. It exploded on impact, white liquid splashing across the tiles. Malik didn't flinch, just looked up at Shane, who stood there with his hands in his pockets, grinning. Clumsy, Shane said. Malik held his stare. The cafeteria went quiet. Shane's smile flickered. Malik stood slow, deliberate. He didn't step forward, didn't raise his voice, just said, You're predictable, and walked away. The bell rang for 5th period. Malik made it 3 steps into the hallway before Shane's voice cut through the noise. Hey, Johnson. Malik kept walking. I'm talking to you. A hand grabbed his shoulder, spun him around. Malik let it happen. Let Shane get in his space, close enough to smell the cheap cologne, close enough to see the anger simmering under his skin. "You think you're tough?" Shane hissed. Malik didn't answer. Shane's jaw tightened. "I said, I heard you." For a second, Shane looked thrown, like he'd expected shouting, expected fists. Malik just looked at him, calm, steady. For a second, Shane looked thrown, like he'd expected shouting, expected fists. Malik just looked at him, calm, steady. Then the crowd shifted. A teacher's voice cut through the hall. Shane backed off, but his eyes promised this wasn't over. Malik knew that. He also knew something Shane didn't. Third rule: fighting isn't about throwing the first punch. It's about controlling the last one. The final bell rang. Malik stepped outside, the afternoon sun warm on his face. Somewhere behind him, he could feel Shane watching. Malik didn't turn around. He just kept walking. The silent war. The next morning, Malik's locker was covered in scratches. Not words, not slurs. Just deep, jagged lines cutting through the metal like someone had taken a key and dragged it over and over in furious, unthinking strikes. The kind of vandalism that wasn't meant to send a message, just to ruin something. Malik ran his fingers over the marks. His stomach tightened, but his face stayed still. He'd expected this. First rule of surviving a bully: never let them see it gets to you. He opened the locker like nothing was wrong, swapped his books, and shut it with a quiet click. Around him, the hallway buzzed with chatter, but he caught the glances, the sideways looks, the whispers that dipped when he passed. "Did you see his locker?" Shane's pissed. "Bet he cries to the principal." Malik kept walking. History class was worse. He took his usual seat in the back, but today the desk was sticky, not with gum, with something thicker, smellier. Malik didn't have to look to know what it was. Maple syrup, the kind that came in those little cafeteria packets, the kind that took forever to clean off. A snicker came from the left. Malik didn't turn, but he knew who it was. Tyler, one of Shane's wrestling buddies, grinning like he just pulled off the world's funniest prank. Malik exhaled. Then, without a word, he grabbed a wad of napkins from his bag and wiped the syrup off the seat. He didn't rush, didn't scowl, just cleaned it up like it was nothing. Across the room, Shane watched, his smirk fading. Malik sat down. The teacher walked in, oblivious. Class began. By lunch, the game had changed. Malik walked into the cafeteria and saw it immediately. The table where Jess usually sat was full. Not with her friends, with Shane's crew. They'd taken it over, sprawling across the benches like they owned the place. Jess stood off to the side, tray in hand, looking pissed. Malik hesitated, then walked over. "You okay?" Jess shot him a look. "Oh, I'm great. Just always wanted to eat lunch standing up." Malik glanced at the table. Shane leaned back, arms crossed, watching them like they were entertainment. Malik turned to Jess. "Come on." He led her to the far corner where a few kids from the art club sat. They made space without question. Jess dropped into a chair. "This is ridiculous." Malik didn't answer. He was watching Shane. Shane was watching him back. The next day, Malik found a note taped to his locker. "Go back where you came from." He crumpled it and threw it away. Gym class was wrestling. Of course it was. Coach blew the whistle and the pairings went up. Malik didn't react when he saw his name next to Shane's. Across the mat, Shane stretched, flashing a grin at his friends. "Easy win." Malik said nothing. They took their positions. The whistle blew. Shane lunged first, fast, aggressive, exactly like Malik expected. He dodged, letting Shane's momentum carry him past. Shane recovered, scowling. "Stand still." Malik didn't. The second time Shane came at him, Malik sidestepped again, but this time he hooked a foot behind Shane's ankle and shoved. Shane hit the mat hard. The gym went silent. Shane stared up, stunned. Then his face darkened. He scrambled up, fists clenched. The whistle blew. "Riggs! Control yourself!" Shane froze. Malik just stood there, breathing steady. The look on Shane's face wasn't just anger, it was the first flicker of doubt. After school, Malik found his bike tipped over, the tires slashed. He crouched beside it, running a hand over the cuts. Deep, deliberate. A shadow fell over him. "Need a ride?" Jess stood there, keys dangling from her fingers. Malik looked up. "You don't have to—" "I know," she interrupted. "Get in." He did. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Malik saw Shane watching from the steps. Their eyes met. Malik didn't smile, but for the first time, Shane looked away first. The breaking point. The air in the locker room hung thick with the smell of sweat and cheap body spray. Malik changed quickly, back turned to the room, ignoring the murmurs that followed him like shadows. He could feel their eyes, Shane's crew, hovering near the benches, waiting for something to happen. He zipped his bag and turned to leave. A hand shoved him hard against the lockers. Malik's shoulder blades hit metal with a dull thud. Shane stood in front of him, close enough that Malik could see the flecks of gold in his blue eyes, close enough to smell the sour mix of adrenaline and Axe body spray. "You think you're slick," Shane hissed. Malik didn't answer. "I saw how you moved in there." Shane's voice dropped low, just for them. "You've done this before." Malik held his gaze. Shane's fingers dug into his shoulder. "I don't like people who cheat." Malik exhaled through his nose. "It's not cheating if you're just better." For a second, Shane looked like he'd been slapped. Then his face twisted and his fist pulled back. The locker room door banged open. "Riggs!" Coach's voice cracked like a whip. Shane froze, arm still raised. Malik didn't move. Coach stormed over, face red. "What the hell is this?" Shane dropped his hand. "Nothing, Coach. Just talking." Coach looked between them, jaw working. Then he jabbed a finger at Shane. "My office. Now." Shane shot Malik one last glare before stalking off. Coach turned to Malik. "You okay?" Malik nodded. Coach studied him, then sighed. "Go home." Malik didn't need to be told twice. The next morning, the whispers followed Malik down the hall like a second shadow. "Did you hear?" Shane almost got suspended. No way, his dad would never let that happen. Malik kept walking. Jess fell into step beside him. "You're alive." Malik shrugged. She snorted. "Shane's pissed, like next level pissed." Malik glanced at her. "His dad chewed him out last night," Jess continued. "Apparently wrestling's his thing, and getting shown up by the new kid isn't part of the plan." Malik's jaw tightened. Jess nudged him. "Careful, now it's personal." Shane made his move at lunch. Malik was halfway through his sandwich when Shane's tray hit the table hard enough to make the milk slosh. "Move," Shane said to the kid sitting across from Malik. The kid scrambled up. Shane dropped into the seat, leaning forward. "We're not done." Malik took another bite. Shane's eye twitched. "You think you're hot shit because you got lucky once?" Malik chewed slowly, swallowed. "You tell me." Shane's fist clenched on the table. "I could ruin you." Malik set his sandwich down. "Try." For a second, Shane just stared, then he smirked. "Fine, let's settle this. One match. After school, no refs, no coaches, no rules." Malik studied him. "Why?" "Because I want to see what you're really made of." Shane leaned in. "Unless you're scared." The cafeteria had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Malik wiped his hands on a napkin. "Where?" The old wrestling mats in the gym storage room smelled like dust and rubber. Shane rolled his shoulders, pacing like a caged animal. "No tapping out. No quitting. We go until someone can't go anymore." Malik stretched his neck. "You talk too much." Shane lunged. This wasn't like gym class. This was raw, unfiltered anger. Shane came at him hard, all fists and fury, no technique. Malik dodged the first swing, blocked the second, but Shane's knee caught him in the ribs. Pain lanced through his side. Shane grinned. Not so tough now, huh? Malik exhaled through the burn. Then he moved. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't even that fast, but it was precise. A sweep of the leg, a twist of the hips, and suddenly Shane was on his back. Malik's forearm braced against his throat. Shane thrashed. "Get off!" Malik held firm. Shane's face darkened. His hands scrabbled at Malik's arm, nails digging in. Malik didn't budge. Shane's movements grew sluggish. His eyes flickered. Malik leaned down, voice low. "You done?" Shane spat in his face. Malik didn't flinch, just tightened his grip. Shane's thrashing slowed. His fingers twitched. At the last second, Malik let go. Shane gasped, rolling onto his side, coughing. Malik stood, wiping his face. "You lose." Shane glared up at him, chest heaving. "This isn't over." Malik turned away. "Yeah, it is." The next day, Shane wasn't in school. Rumor had it his dad pulled him off the team. Malik didn't care. He walked the halls like always, head high, eyes forward. But something had changed. The whispers weren't about him anymore. They were about Shane. And for the first time, Malik let himself smile. The reckoning. The first snow of winter dusted Crestwood High's parking lot in a thin layer of white, crunching under Malik's boots as he crossed toward the school entrance. His breath fogged in the air, and he tugged his hoodie tighter around his neck. 3 weeks had passed since the fight in the storage room. 3 weeks of Shane's absence. 3 weeks of whispers that grew louder every day. He got suspended. No, his dad sent him to some military school upstate. I heard he's scared to show his face. Malik kept his head down and walked faster. Jess caught up with him at the lockers, her cheeks pink from the cold. "You seen the announcements?" Malik shook his head. She grinned and shoved her phone at him. The screen showed a flyer for Crestwood's annual Winter Showdown, an all-school wrestling tournament. Champions from each weight class would compete in a final exhibition match. At the bottom, in bold letters, featuring this year's top rivalry, Riggs versus Johnson. Malik's stomach dropped. "What the hell is this?" Jess's smile faded. "You didn't know." "No." "Shane's back," she said quietly. "And he petitioned the athletic board to add you to the bracket. They approved it this morning." Malik handed the phone back. His palms were sweating. Jess hesitated. "You don't have to do this." Malik looked down the hall. A crowd had gathered near the gym doors where Shane stood in the center, laughing too loud, flexing for his friends. As if sensing Malik's gaze, Shane turned. Their eyes locked. Shane smirked and mimed snapping a neck. Malik turned away. The gymnasium was packed the night of the tournament, the air thick with the smell of popcorn and sweat. Malik waited in the locker room, rolling his shoulders, tuning out the roar of the crowd. Coach leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed. "You sure about this?" Malik adjusted his headgear. "No." Coach sighed. "Riggs has been training for this since he was a kid. His dad's got him working with college-level coaches. This isn't some backroom brawl." Malik stood. "I know." The PA system crackled. "Now entering, Malik Johnson." The noise when he stepped into the arena was deafening. Half the crowd cheered, the other half booed. Malik kept his eyes forward, on the mat, on the figure already waiting for him. Shane looked different under the bright lights, sharper, leaner, like he'd been carved from ice. He bounced on his toes, grinning as Malik approached. "Took you long enough," Shane said. The ref called them to the center. Shane leaned in as they touched hands. "I'm gonna break you." Malik didn't blink. The whistle blew. The first period was a blur. Shane came at him like a storm, all precision and fury, his technique honed to a razor's edge. Malik blocked, countered, but Shane was faster, stronger, 2 points, then 4. The crowd roared with each takedown. At the end of the first round, Malik slumped on the bench, his ribs screaming. Jess crouched beside him, pressing a water bottle into his hands. He's going for your left side, every time. Malik wiped his mouth. I know. Across the mat, Shane's dad clapped him on the back, barking instructions. Shane nodded, his eyes never leaving Malik. The whistle blew for round 2. This time, Malik moved first. He feinted left, Shane bit, then pivoted right, catching Shane's arm in a lightning-fast grip. Shane twisted free, but not before Malik scored his first takedown. The crowd gasped. Shane's eyes went wide, then dark. He lunged. Malik saw it coming, the illegal move, the knee aimed at his temple. He ducked, but not fast enough. White pain exploded behind his eyes as Shane's knee pad grazed his forehead. The ref's whistle shrieked. Point deduction! Shane threw up his hands. Bullshit. His dad was on his feet, screaming at the officials. Malik staggered up, blinking blood out of his eye. The scoreboard ticked over, 6-5. Shane still led. The whistle blew for the final round. 30 seconds left. Malik's lungs burned, his vision swam. Across the mat, Shane grinned, chest heaving, knowing he'd won. The crowd chanted Shane's name. Malik exhaled, then he moved. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't even that strong, but it was perfect. A single, desperate lunge as Shane stepped just a fraction too close. Malik's arms locked around Shane's waist, his shoulder driving into Shane's ribs. Shane's feet left the mat. For one suspended second, they hung in the air. Then Shane hit the ground with a sound that shook the bleachers. Malik held on. The ref's hand slapped the mat. Pin! The gym erupted. Shane lay there, stunned as the scoreboard flashed. Johnson, win by fall. Malik rolled off, gasping. Jess was screaming. The crowd was losing its mind. And Shane? Shane just stared at the ceiling like he couldn't understand how it had all gone wrong. Malik didn't stay for the medal ceremony. He limped out the back exit, the cold air biting his sweaty skin. His head throbbed where Shane had kneed him. His ribs ached with every breath. But for the first time in months, he felt light. Footsteps crunched behind him. Malik turned. Shane stood there, his silver medal dangling from one fist. His nose was bleeding. His eyes were red. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Shane held out the medal. Malik frowned. Take it, Shane muttered. Malik didn't move. Shane's jaw worked. Just take it, okay? Slowly, Malik reached out. Their fingers brushed. Shane let go first. He turned and walked away, his shadow stretching long under the parking lot lights. Malik looked down at the medal in his hand. Then he tucked it in his pocket and started the long walk home. The final bell. Spring came late to Crestwood that year. The last patches of snow clung stubbornly to the shaded corners of the football field, refusing to melt even as the first warm breeze whispered through the chain-link fences. Malik sat on the bleachers, rolling the silver medal between his fingers, watching the light glint off its surface. 3 months had passed since the tournament, 3 months of silence from Shane, 3 months of walking the halls without looking over his shoulder. The medal was cold in his palm. He should have thrown it away, should have left it in some forgotten drawer. But he hadn't. Behind him, the school doors banged open. Malik didn't need to turn to know who it was. The footsteps were too heavy, too deliberate. Shane stopped a few feet away, hands shoved deep in his pockets. He looked different without the Letterman jacket. Just a guy in a plain gray hoodie, the sleeves pushed up to reveal forearms still marked with fading bruises from the tournament. You gonna stare at that thing all day? Malik closed his fist around the medal. What do you want, Riggs? Shane exhaled through his nose, then dropped onto the bleacher beside him, leaving a careful space between them. The wood creaked under his weight. For a long minute, neither spoke. The only sound was the distant laughter of freshmen messing around by the bike racks. Finally, Shane nodded at the medal. You never turned it in. Malik shrugged. Didn't see the point. It's real silver, you know. Worth something. Not to me. Shane's jaw tightened. He looked out across the empty field where the wrestling team was setting up hurdles for practice. His old team. Malik had heard the rumors. Shane hadn't stepped foot on the mat since the tournament. "You could have pinned me faster," Shane said suddenly. Malik glanced at him. "That move in the third round." Shane's voice was flat. "You hesitated." Malik turned the medal over in his hands. "Maybe." "Why?" The question hung between them, raw and unguarded. Malik studied Shane's profile, the stubborn set of his jaw, the shadows under his eyes. He looked tired. "Didn't seem fair," Malik said at last. Shane barked a laugh. "Fair?" "Yeah." Shane shook his head, his fingers tapping an uneven rhythm against his knee. "My old man lost his shit after that match. Said I embarrassed him. Said I wasn't fit to carry his name." He paused. He was right. Malik said nothing. Shane stood abruptly, the bleachers shuddering under him. "I'm leaving, end of the semester. Military school in Texas." Malik looked up. "Dad's idea." Shane's smile was bitter. "Guess he figures they can beat the loser out of me." The wind picked up, rustling the pages of a discarded notebook below the bleachers. Malik stood, the medal still in his hand. For a second, he thought about giving it back. Instead, he held out his other hand. Shane stared at it. "What's this?" "Truce." Shane's eyes flicked to Malik's face, searching for the joke. When he didn't find it, something in his posture shifted. He reached out, their palms meeting in a brief, firm grip. "Truce," Shane muttered. He turned to leave, then hesitated. "For what it's worth, you were the only one who never lied to me." Malik watched him go, the medal warm in his hand. Graduation day dawned bright and cloudless. Malik stood with his classmates on the football field, the sun beating down on his shoulders as the principal droned on about futures and potential. Jess elbowed him, grinning as she pointed to the back row of graduates, where Shane sat, stiff in his cap and gown, his father's stern profile visible in the front row. When they called Malik's name, the applause was louder than he expected. As he crossed the stage, he caught a flash of movement in the bleachers, Shane's dad clapping once, grudgingly, before folding his arms again. Shane didn't look at him. But when they tossed their caps into the air, Malik saw it. The slight nod Shane gave him as the tassels fluttered down. Not friendship, not forgiveness, just respect. Malik found the medal on his doorstep a week later, wrapped in a scrap of notebook paper. "Keep it." That was all it said. He tucked it into the box of things he was taking to college, right next to his acceptance letter and the photo of him and his mom at graduation. Somewhere out there, Shane was starting over, and so was he. The wind chime on the porch rang softly as Malik closed the door. Somewhere in the distance, a train whistle blew,